Hi, I'm Beth, and today we're talking about how to build strong and effective glutes using the bridge exercise. So in my last video, we talked about some squat exercises, split squats, and step-ups. Today is focused on the bridge. So real great exercise you can do anywhere, but one that a lot of people struggle with, including myself. I used to really struggle with this. So most of the time we've got maybe tight ribs, right? Our back is tight, or maybe our hips are tight, and we compensate because of that. So let's figure out how to get out of those compensations and get the most out of our bridge exercise. We're really to train those glutes. So when we lay down into our position, the first thing I want to do is try to lengthen my spine, right? So I want to try to get my bottom rib on the ground, and then once that's on the ground, I'm going to try to put my pelvis to neutral. So I've got my neutral lumbar curve right there, right? But my ribs are grounded, and then I'm going to lay down, trying to keep the ribs settled. So that alone can be a real struggle for a lot of us. I know it used to be for me. So if that is a struggle, most likely you're not getting everything you can out of your bridge. So we want to address that first. So definitely work on releasing those muscles along your ribs and getting some mobility there, right? This should be our starting position, feet in, kind of close. So if your ribs are popped up like that, right, chances are you're not going to go around like that, right? You probably draw those hips under. And how do we do that? We tighten those glutes just a little bit. So when we do that, we're starting that bridge already short, right? Those muscles are already halfway done. So when we come up to the top, this is our top, right? Familiar, anyone? The top of our bridge is kind of not so much of a bridge, is a sling or a hammock, right? So we want to instead make sure that we've got that neutral pelvis, so we've got a lengthened glute muscle ready to do the work for us. So if our ribs are flared up like this and we can't get them down, then we're going to lift the hips up until they line up with where our ribs are now. That will be the bottom of your bridge. And so we want to be kind of open here through the hips. We're not tightening the glutes in this position, right? And that's the bottom. So you could even put a rolled up towel, right? Depending on how much space it is, maybe even half a foam roller, right? A yoga block, something under here to take up that space so that you know where to stop when you're coming down, right? But if you have the ability to get the ribs grounded, then we'll go ahead and do that. So from here, we're going to bridge up using the glutes. So if we come up to the top here using the glutes, connected to the abdominals, we ought to be able to come up in a nice long line. So one of the other common problems that occurs here at the top of our bridge when we're tightening everything up is the hamstring cramp. Ever had that happen? Oh yeah. So if you find that your hamstrings cramp, chances are you're pushing into your feet, right? If I start pushing into my feet, now I'm traveling that way, I'm traveling backwards. My hamstrings have to fight to keep me here because I'm created this battle. So instead, I want to relax the quadriceps, right? And allow them to stretch, because the bridge is actually a quadricep stretch, right? And then use the glutes to rotate this core up, 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 up. So the glutes are lifting, feet are relaxed, quads are stretching, abdominals engaged. So the other issue that comes up sometimes is the back, right? If we're feeling it in our lower back, and often when we feel it there, we'll also feel it in the neck. So in that scenario, instead of moving as a unit through that motion, we tend to be dropping and lifting through the spine,
right? Doing more work in the spine. And usually, again, that's those glutes are already a little bit tight, right? If they're tucked under, I can't really move effectively from these guys. So instead, I'm using the stuff on the either side. The lower back, right? That spine is moving, and then the knees. That's those quads kicking in and pushing me back. So again, just finding what things tend to happen with you. Is it the hamstrings that tend to cramp? Do you feel your back hurting? Right? What are those things that happen? And then figure out what you need to do to get out of that. So we'll ground the ribs, feet close, and let's do a set of 10 here. So wherever the bottom is for you, whether it's on the ground or not, lift up and lower down, up and down. I like the hands sometimes on the core just to remind me to keep all of that connected, right? So that I'm not bending through the spine. Really tightening through those abdominals. One more. Let's hold this one up. So we're just going to keep that connection on the front, keep those glutes engaged, feet relaxed. One way to test that, I could lift the toes and lift the heels. Right, back and forth. And again, we're just lifting, we're not pushing into the floor. Just a lift. Just further challenging the core and the glutes. Now I'm going to keep one leg here. So my right leg here, I'm going to keep this guy on, keep those abdominals on, and then I'm going to lift the other leg up. So it could be straight up, it can be bent, then lower down just where I can keep control of that core, and right back up. So remembering again, it's the glute lifting up. Glute lifting up, not foot pushing down. Three more. 3, 2, 1, and set that one down. Again, try not to push into the foot. Maintain that connection. Lift, and then lower and lift. And then I'll place that foot back on the ground and then come back down.
All right, so if I want to make that a little bit more challenging, I could use physio ball. Grab my friend over here. Right, and so that ball under your feet is gonna wanna slide away. So you will have to use some hamstrings for that, but they shouldn't cramp as long as you're not pushing that ball away. Or you can have it against a wall here, and then that makes that part a little bit easier. There's still some balance issue, right to left, so it adds a little challenge. It also can help if your quads are really tight. So if you felt pulling or strain on your kneecap during that bridge at the top, that was maybe a little too much stretch for your quads. So lifting the feet up, or even just putting your head and shoulders elevated, kind of takes away that, makes it so we don't have to bend that knee quite so much, which keeps us from having to stretch that muscle quite so much. So I'm gonna pop up on top of my ball here and roll down so that the head is supported but not pushed forward. All right, feels pretty good. This is a pretty squishy ball. And then I'm gonna walk my feet in just a little bit, and I'm gonna find the top of my bridge. So I'm gonna lift up from the glutes, connect through the core, so I've got that long line. So here at the top of this bridge, I don't have as big a knee bend as I had when I was on the ground, right? So if I do have real tight quads, this is going to be a little more comfortable at the knees, right? It can also help if you tend to have forward head, because you can adjust so that your head is supported just a little bit more. So you want to lower down a little bit to where you feel you're releasing those glutes, and then come right back up. Lower and release. And ideally we move this whole piece as a unit, right? We want to avoid leaving the ribs up and dropping the hips down. That's another thing we see a lot, but that is actually doing a lot of work and strain and movement through that lumbar spine. So we don't want to bend the spine here. We want the pelvis to bring the spine with it. So as we come down, the ribs also come down and back up. Right? And it's just the shoulders really that are remaining still. Everything else coming down with us, up with us. Okay. And then again, I could be at a bench instead of a ball, and it wouldn't be so rolly. And I can put my feet on top of the ball as another option. And again, it could be that bench, right? Bench would be a little bit easier, a little more sturdy. I don't have one available right now. Okay, but my feet are on the ball. Having the ball against the wall means it's not going to roll away from me, but it still could roll side to side. I still want to try to ground those ribs. All right, and then bridge up to the top. So I'm trying to use my glutes to lift me up, abdominals, right, to keep all that connection. And then it would be the same thing. I'm still going to go down and up, using the glutes to lift me and the abdominals to connect. And we could do both of those with one leg if we wanted to. All right. So one more exercise. This is not technically a bridge, but it's the same movement as our single leg bridge. So if we think about that single leg bridge for a second, right here we were up, right? So let's see where that leg is, and I'm going to come down, and I'm going to go up. Right. So if we turn that shape upside down, so that now I'm in a quadruped position, and I do want this hip bent here, right? A lot of times we kind of creep forward, but we really do want that bent. Knees are under hips. Some people will say hands under shoulders, and a lot of times that causes some wrist strain, or we start really contracting in our back. If it's comfortable, totally fine. I find it helps sometimes to take the hands a little further forward and just be mindful of drawing the ribs kind of down away from those arms so that we are still neutral. But now I'm just sort of perched on the hands, perched on the legs, right? They're not doing a whole lot of work. The core is able to keep me here. And then from here, we lift one leg up. So now, before when I was doing the bridge, this leg that's up, right? That foot would have been on the floor, here would have been my bridge. And this leg that's on the ground would have been the one in the air. So it just flips it upside down. Same shape. So I'm gonna lift this leg up just as if I were going higher into a bridge. Gonna lift, lift, lift. Then when I bring this knee down, I could come right back where I was, right? Or I like to come across to the other side, just because that gives you a little bit more range of motion, which activates a little bit more muscle fiber. So down and up. And I'm still trying to maintain that connection through the core and lift from the glutes. Last one. Set it down. Other one up. Again, contracting the glutes to lift up, keeping that connection through the core. And then it comes down to the outside of the other knee and back up. Get a nice little stretch for them. And lengthening the spine and opening up those glutes. You can get another stretch here. If this feels like too intense, just straighten out that bottom leg. And then switch.